A detective hears a scream on a rainy night and follows the sound to an abandoned tram depot. Inside, he finds a chalk circle with a woman's black shoe and a fresh red handprint. It was the kind of night that made even the street lamps seem afraid to shine. The rain had been falling for hours, thin, whispering sheets that draped the city in a shroud of silver and smoke. I was halfway through my second cup of bitter coffee when I heard it. Sharp, sudden, and human. A scream. Not the kind that echoes from a drunken alley brawl or a startled cat. No, this one was too clean. Too deliberate. It sliced through the wet air like a violin string snapping under pressure. Then, silence. I waited, listening. The hum of the city seemed to hold its breath. Even the rain hesitated, as if the clouds themselves were curious. I grabbed my coat, an old brown thing with more memories than buttons, and stepped into the night. The air smelled of rust, oil, and something faintly metallic, blood, maybe. The sound had come from near the old tram depot, a place long abandoned, fenced off with warnings no one read anymore. I walked fast, boots sinking into puddles that mirrored the jaundiced glow of the lamps. When I reached the depot, the silence greeted me first. Then came the whisper of something else, a faint, rhythmic tapping from inside. A heartbeat? A clock? Or maybe just the rain leaking through broken glass. I pushed the door open. It protested with a low moan. Inside, the world was made of shadows and echoes. My flashlight caught dust swirling like ghosts, and for a moment, I thought I saw movement, something slipping behind the old machinery. That's when I noticed it. In the center of the room, someone had drawn a circle on the floor in white chalk. Inside it lay a single black shoe. Small, elegant, a woman's. And beside it, a wet red handprint. The handprint was fresh. The red still glistened under my flashlight, gluing bits of dust to the floor. It wasn't the kind of thing you stumbled upon and forgot the next morning. This was a message, one written in panic, not ink. I crouched beside the chalk circle. Whoever had drawn it had done so carefully, almost ritualistically. The lines were even, symmetrical. Not a single smudge. The shoe inside looked out of place, as if it had been placed there after whatever happened. A stage prop left behind after the curtain fell. Then I saw something else. A faint engraving on the shoe's heel, M.A. 2 letters, delicate and deliberate. I'd seen initials like that before, on things people didn't expect to lose. The tapping I'd heard earlier grew louder. I turned toward the sound. A trail of droplets, blood, by the smell, led from the circle to a narrow passage at the back of the depot. I followed it, each step stirring echoes that didn't feel like they belonged to me. The passage opened into a storage room, empty except for an old office chair, a shattered mirror, and a photograph pinned to the wall. It was black and white, old, maybe 20 years. A woman stood in front of the very same depot, holding an umbrella and smiling faintly at the camera. The shoe in the photo was unmistakable. Same design, same engraved initials. But her eyes, there was something wrong with them. Too pale, too knowing. Then I noticed what someone had scrawled on the photo's bottom edge, in ink that had bled through from the rain. She never left. The tapping stopped. That was when I realized the sound hadn't been the rain at all. It was coming from behind the mirror. The mirror was cracked across its center like a spiderweb that had forgotten its prey. Each shard held a different version of me. Distorted, nervous, maybe even guilty. The tapping came again, softer now, deliberate. I pressed my palm against the glass. Cold. Too cold for a night like this. There was something behind it, something trying to get out, or perhaps trying to stay hidden. The frame was bolted to the wall, but time had made the screws brittle. With a bit of pressure, it came loose, revealing a narrow cavity. My flashlight cut through the dust and landed on a metal box wedged between the studs. On its lid, carved in precise handwriting, were the same initials, M.A. I hesitated. Then I opened it. Inside lay 3 things: a silver locket, a folded letter stained with age, and a single cassette tape wrapped in wax paper. The smell of old paper and faint perfume filled the air, something floral. Iris, maybe. I unfolded the letter carefully. If anyone finds this, I'm already gone. He knows. He always knew. The sound you hear at night isn't the wind. It's the truth trying to breathe. No name. No date. Just a small smudge of red near the bottom. Lipstick, not blood. I pocketed the tape and turned the locket over. Inside was the same woman from the photo, but this time she wasn't smiling. Someone had drawn a thin black line across her eyes. That's when my flashlight flickered. Once, twice, then died. In the dark, I heard a voice, a woman's whisper, right behind me. You shouldn't have opened it. And then, nothing. Just the rain again, slipping through the cracks, washing over the floor like it wanted to erase everything. But rain can't wash away what's already remembered. Back in my office, the city felt smaller, shrinking behind rain-smeared glass and the hum of a dying neon sign that spelled hotel in flickering pink. I had the tape on my desk, the metal box beside it, still damp from the depot. The woman's whisper clung to me like smoke. I poured a drink, though I doubted it would steady my hands. The scotch tasted like fire and regret. I slipped the cassette into my old tape recorder and pressed play. For a few seconds, nothing. Then a low hiss, the sound of rain on metal, and a woman's voice. Soft, melodic, trembling with something that wasn't quite fear. If you're hearing this, it means he's close again. The rain brings him back. He can't stand silence, that's why he makes it. A pause, then a faint sound behind her words. Footsteps, slow and deliberate. He calls himself the listener. He says he collects sounds that shouldn't exist. My screams were the last thing he needed. Static. Then a click, like a door closing. The recording cut off. I rewound it, listening again, trying to catch what came just before the static swallowed her voice. That's when I heard it, barely audible, buried deep beneath the hiss. A man's whisper. You're next, detective. I froze. No one had called me about this case. No one even knew I was at that depot. Yet something did. The window rattled suddenly. Outside, a figure in a dark raincoat stood under the street lamp, motionless, looking up at me. The light flickered once, and when it came back, he was gone. Only a single thing remained on the wet pavement below, another black shoe. Not the same as before. This one was mine that I didn't remember losing the shoe. Yet there it was, waiting for me under the street lamp like a calling card. The rain fell harder now, drumming against the pavement with mechanical precision, as if it had found a rhythm that belonged to someone else. I went down to the street, my coat already heavy with water. The shoe was upright, perfectly placed, no mud beneath it. I picked it up and felt the inside dry, warm. Someone had just been wearing it. The street was empty, but not silent. Somewhere, faintly, a man was whistling, a slow, uneven tune that echoed off the brick walls like a warning. I followed it into the alley, each note leading me deeper between the buildings. At the far end, I saw the glow of a cigarette. The smoke curled around a man's silhouette, tall, wearing a raincoat that glistened like oil under the weak light. He turned his head slightly, enough for me to see the edge of a smile. Nice night for listening, he said, his voice smooth, almost kind. Who are you? I asked, though I already knew the answer. He dropped the cigarette, crushed it under his boot, and the smoke hissed as if the rain feared him too. Names are just noise. I prefer silence. He took a step forward, and with it, the world seemed to muffle. The rain, the city, even the pulse in my ears dimmed. Then he lifted something from his pocket. A small, silver device with spinning reels, a miniature recorder, old but alive, whirring faintly. He pressed a button, and I heard my own voice come from it. If you're hearing this, it means he's close again. The same words the woman had said on the tape. But that voice wasn't hers this time. It was mine. I drew my gun. The man smiled wider, almost sad. Careful, he whispered. The rain remembers echoes. And before I could blink, he vanished, leaving behind nothing but his cigarette's last ember and the faint whisper of my own voice repeating, "You're next, detective." The ember died at my feet, hissing into darkness. For a long moment, I just stood there, listening, to the rain, to the silence beneath it, to the rhythm of something vast and unseen pressing against the edges of the city. When I looked up, the alleys had changed. The buildings were the same, but wrong. Leaning closer, windows too dark, too watchful. The air carried that faint, electric charge of an old recording being rewound. I walked, not sure where to. Every step splashed through puddles that seemed to echo a second too late, like they were repeating what I'd already done. The night was playing me back. By the time I reached my office again, my gun hand was trembling. I poured another drink, but the glass cracked in my grip, hairline fractures spreading like tiny roads to nowhere. I didn't remember setting the recorder on my desk, yet there it was, still running. The reels spun quietly, dripping with condensation. I pressed stop. then rewind, then play. At first, only static, then the faint sound of my own footsteps. The tape had captured everything since the depot, the scream, the whispers, the encounter in the alley. But near the end, there was something else. A new sound. Rain, yes, but layered with something underneath. Voices, hundreds of them, crying, laughing, begging, whispering secrets they thought were safe. And then, one voice, clear, feminine, and familiar. He doesn't take lives, detective. He takes sounds. He keeps them, makes them live again. Don't you hear it? You're already part of the recording. The rain outside rose in volume, hammering the glass. I turned toward the window. Across the street, every drainpipe, every puddle, every raindrop was moving in rhythm, swaying to the pattern of the voice. Then, from the street below, a whisper rose with the storm. Play it back. And against my better judgment, against every instinct I had left, I did. The tape hissed like a living thing. When I pressed play, the walls seemed to bend inward, as if the whole room were holding its breath. The sound that followed wasn't music or words, it was a pulse. Slow, deliberate, too deep to be human. Then, faintly beneath it, came another noise, a dripping, rhythmic, constant, as though the tape itself had recorded rain underground. And then, her voice again, calm, measured. If you've come this far, it means you've heard the city breathe. Don't go below, detective. That's where he keeps them. The reel slowed, then reversed itself. The voice played backward for a few seconds, distorting into something guttural, inhuman. And then it stopped entirely. That's when I noticed it. The sound wasn't coming from the recorder anymore. It was coming from beneath the floorboards. I tore back the carpet, revealing an old trapdoor, one I'd never seen before, though I'd lived in that office for years. My nameplate on the door upstairs read M. Crane, Private Investigations, but below the wood, someone had carved another name in jagged letters. M.A. The same initials from the shoe. The hinges creaked when I pulled it open. A ladder descended into darkness, where the air shimmered like heat on wet asphalt. I took a breath, flashlight in hand, and went down. The first thing that hit me was the smell, wet stone, copper, and the faint sweetness of old perfume. The sound grew louder. That same dripping, steady, and alive. At the bottom was a tunnel, narrow, brick-lined, stretching into infinity. The walls were slick with condensation, but something was carved into them. Not words, symbols, waveforms, sound, made visible. And in the distance, somewhere deep in that endless dark, I heard it again, a woman's scream, followed by the soft, unmistakable click of a recorder being stopped. The tunnel breathed. Each drip from the ceiling echoed for miles, folding over itself until the air vibrated with layered memory. My flashlight shook in my hand. The beam caught glimpses of glistening brick and the faint shimmer of moisture. No, not moisture. Tears, perhaps. The walls seemed to weep. I followed the echoes, my boots sloshing through shallow water that reflected shapes that weren't mine. The symbols on the walls changed as I moved, waveforms becoming words, words breaking into names. Anna, Roscoe, Lydia, Crane. My name was the last one. The tunnel widened into a circular chamber. Its ceiling was lost in darkness, but the walls were lined with hundreds of small, metallic devices, recorders, all of them, ancient and new, whirring and blinking like mechanical fireflies. The hum of their combined playback was almost melodic, 1,000 whispers forming one continuous tone. I stepped closer. Every recorder had a label, handwritten, water-stained. I leaned in to read one. Case number 47, The Woman Without a Name. The tape spun, and from it came a sound I knew too well, my own voice from the depot, saying. The sound had come from near the old tram depot. Another device joined in. Then another. A chorus of my past, retelling every step I'd taken since the scream. Each word looped endlessly, overlapping until it became a wall of noise. At the center of the chamber stood a single chair, and in that chair, a figure, motionless, head bowed. A woman's dress, soaked dark, clung to her frame. One foot bare, the other wearing the black shoe I'd found. I circled her slowly. Her skin was pale, lips slightly parted. Around her neck hung the silver locket. I reached to touch her shoulder. Her eyes snapped open. They weren't eyes at all, just two black reels spinning quietly. And through the mechanical came a voice, my voice, whispering from her throat. "Welcome to the archive, detective. Say something worth keeping." Her head tilted toward me with the slow, deliberate motion of a clock's hand. The reels in her eyes spun faster, catching the faint glow of my flashlight. Each turn produced a low murmur, as if a dozen forgotten conversations were trying to escape through her skin. I took a step back. The room seemed to inhale with her, every recorder on the walls sinking to her breath. The whisper became rhythm, the rhythm became words. "You've been recording too, detective," she said, her voice now a mixture of mine and hers, woven together like a duet sung in the dark. "Every word you've spoken since the scream belongs to him now." The air rippled. From the far wall, a shape began to form. A silhouette pressed into the brick, human in outline, but hollow where its face should be. As I watched, it started listening, tilting its empty head toward me. "I'm not your sound to keep," I said, though my voice trembled enough to betray me. The woman in the chair smiled then, a small, tragic smile that didn't belong to her. "It's not me who keeps it. It's the listener. I only feed the archive." With that, she raised her hands, and I saw that her fingertips had microphones embedded in them, thin cords trailing down her wrists, pulsing faintly with light. When she moved, they hummed, collecting the air around us. And then the reels in her eyes stopped spinning. A soft click. Instantly, the chamber went silent. The recorders on the walls died. Even the sound of the rain above was gone. I spoke, tried to speak, but no sound came out. My throat moved, but nothing. The silence pressed against me like water filling my lungs. Then, from the tunnel behind, I heard footsteps, slow, steady, impossibly loud in that dead air. The woman turned her head toward the sound and whispered, in perfect imitation of my own voice, "He's here for your echo." The footsteps drew nearer, one measured beat at a time, until even the air began to vibrate with their approach. Each step sounded like a heartbeat recorded too closely to the microphone. Heavy, intimate, inescapable. The woman in the chair straightened, the cords in her wrists tightening like strings of a puppet being pulled. She turned toward the tunnel, lips parting slightly, as if to welcome someone she had always known was coming. I could move again, though the silence still clung to my throat. My flashlight flickered, and in its trembling beam I saw the shadow stretch across the wet floor before its owner appeared. He stepped into the chamber without sound of his own. His boots left no echo, no splash. The raincoat was the same as in the alley, long and dark, dripping though there was no rain here. His face was half hidden beneath the brim of a wide hat, but I could feel his eyes on me. He carried no weapon, just a small recording device, polished and ancient, hanging from a cord around his neck. It turned on with a soft click, and the silence thickened until I could hear my own pulse stuttering in my ears. "Detective," he said, his voice quiet but vast, filling every corner of the chamber. "You've been following sounds that belong to me." I forced a word past the weight in my throat. "Why me?" He smiled faintly, as though he pitied me. "Because you listen. Most only here." The woman in the chair began to hum, a low, trembling note that made the recorders along the wall flicker back to life. Each one played a different piece of the same melody, all out of sync, until the chamber became a storm of mismatched echoes. The listener raised a hand. The noise stopped instantly. Then he said, almost gently, "It's time you left something behind." He placed the recorder in my palm. It was warm, alive, and as I held it, I realized it was already spinning, recording my voice, trapped inside it. The silence that followed the scream. My own words. From the very beginning. The listener nodded once. "Every echo finds its source, detective. Now find yours." And before I could ask what he meant, he stepped backward into the dark, his outline unraveling, dissolving into the hum of unseen rain. Only the woman's whisper remained. "He keeps them until they forget how to be human." I stood there for what felt like hours, the little recorder pulsing faintly in my hand like a second heart. Its reels turned without a sound. Every instinct told me to smash it, to end whatever spell it carried. But curiosity is a poison detectives drink willingly. I pressed play. At first, there was the sound of rain. Then the creak of a door. My own footsteps, slow, careful. But as I listened, the recording began to drift. The rhythm of the steps changed. They were heavier, dragging. And then a voice. My voice. She never left. It was me, word for word. but the tone wasn't mine. Too calm, too certain. The me on the tape spoke like a man who already knew how the story ended. I turned the recorder over. Someone, maybe me, had carved a symbol into the metal casing. A spiral. No, not a spiral. A waveform looping endlessly inward. Beneath it, the faintest engraving of a date. Tomorrow's date. The hum of the chamber shifted. The recorders on the walls flickered one by one, whispering fragments of conversations, mine among them, weaving through strangers' voices like threads tangled in an old reel. And somewhere in that static chorus, another voice emerged. Female. Soft. Familiar. You've heard too much, Michael. My name. Spoken with the same distant tenderness I'd heard years ago, from someone long dead. The locket around the woman's neck began to glow faintly, and I realized with a slow, painful certainty, I had given it to someone once. Someone I'd buried. Anna, I whispered. The reels in the woman's eyes twitched at the sound, stuttering in recognition. Her head tilted toward me, the edges of her mechanical smile trembling. You recorded me first, she said. Now it's your turn. And from every recorder in the room, my voice began to echo back. Hundreds of copies, overlapping, folding inward until they became a roar. A single question rose from beneath it all. Who's listening now, detective? The roar became unbearable, voices folding into voices until the air itself seemed to twist. My flashlight died with a final flicker, and the dark that followed wasn't just absence of light. It was full, alive, listening. I dropped the recorder. It didn't shatter. It sank into the wet stone like it belonged there. When it vanished, the noise cut off in an instant. Silence. The kind that vibrates in your bones. Then came a slow rewind, a sound unmistakable, the reels of a tape turning backward. But it wasn't any device I could see. It was the room itself rewinding. The dripping reversed. My breath reversed. The echo of my last words. Who's listening now, detective? Played backward through the air until it became an unrecognizable murmur. And then I was no longer in the chamber. I was back in my office. Dry, lights spilling through the blinds in pale stripes. The rain had stopped. The tape recorder sat quietly on the desk, its reels still. No sign of the trapdoor, no scent of copper or perfume. Only my half-empty glass of scotch, sweating gently onto a file-marked case number 47, the woman without a name. I told myself it had been a dream, a fevered hallucination. But when I reached for the glass, I noticed something wrong. My reflection in the window didn't move with me. It sat still, lips parted, eyes watching. And then it spoke, my own voice, smooth and tired. You were supposed to leave something behind. The reflection lifted a hand, pressing it to the glass. My palm moved on instinct, meeting it halfway. The surface felt cold, deeper than glass should. I pulled back. On the window pane, written in condensation, were 3 words. Play it back. The recorder clicked to life on its own. The reels began to spin backward. The sound that filled the room wasn't mine this time. It was hers, Anna's. Laughing, whispering something over and over until the meaning broke apart into rhythm. And beneath it, so soft I almost missed it, a man's voice. You found the ending, detective, but you forgot where it began. The recorder spun faster, the reels a blur. The laughter shifted, lighter now, almost tender, but beneath it the static pulsed like a heartbeat trying to remember its rhythm. I reached for the power switch, but the device ignored me. It had no need for permission anymore. A single click cut through the noise, and the voice that followed was calm. Male. Familiar. Let's start over, detective. The blinds rattled, though there was no wind. The air thickened, folding in on itself. My desk drawers slid open, papers swirling upward, case files fluttering like frightened birds. Each one bore a different version of my name. Michael Crane, M. A. Crane, M. Archer, changing with every flash of light from the spinning reels. The rain started again outside, but it was falling upward, puddles unforming, droplets climbing back to the clouds. Then the office door creaked open. A woman stood there, hair damp, wearing one shoe. The other foot bare, pale as glass. She looked at me the way someone might look at a stranger they've already mourned. You never stopped listening, she said. Her voice was both hers and mine, layered like 2 tapes played in sync. She walked toward the desk, her reflection in the window out of time with her steps. When she reached the recorder, she placed her hand over it. And for the first time, it stopped. The silence that followed wasn't ordinary. It breathed. Then, faintly, I heard something new. The sound of a match striking. A spark. And from the corner of the office, the shadow of a man appeared. Tall, coat dripping, eyes glinting with the wet shine of memory. The listener. He looked at her, then at me, and smiled with something close to sorrow. Every sound returns to its source, he said softly. Every story, too. He gestured toward the recorder. Play it once more, and you'll understand what you've been recording all along. My hand moved before my mind could stop it. The play button sank with a quiet click. And the first thing I heard was the scream. The same one that started it all. But this time, it was mine. The scream tore through the room like glass shattering under pressure. It wasn't loud, just final. A note so pure it erased the air around it. I staggered back. The sound wasn't coming from the recorder, it was coming from inside me. My lungs burned, my vision trembled, and I could feel the vibration crawling up my throat, a desperate attempt to escape. Anna, or whatever remained of her, watched in silence, her eyes wide and shining, but no tears came. The listener stood behind her, his head bowed, as if this had all been foretold and he was merely the last witness. The walls of the office began to ripple. The blinds twisted, bending light into spirals. The city beyond the window wasn't my city anymore. It was shifting, stretching, replaying itself frame by frame like old film melting under heat. The scream faded into a hum. Then that hum became a whisper. You're not solving a case, Michael. You are the case. The voice was hers again, but older, heavier. Something inside me cracked open. The memories came, not as pictures, but as sounds. The faint click of a lighter, the hush of rain, the way her laughter had caught in her throat the last time I saw her. And beneath them all, another sound I'd ignored, always ignored. The recorder's faint, steady whir. The listener stepped closer, his expression unreadable. Do you remember now? The truth unspooled like magnetic tape. The case, the depot, the scream, they weren't things I'd found. They were playbacks. A loop I'd been trapped in since the night she died. I hadn't gone looking for the sound. I'd been the sound, repeating itself through time, a ghost made of echoes. Anna reached out, her voice almost gone. You kept listening, Michael, and that's why you stayed. Her touch was warm for the briefest instant. Then silence swept through everything like a tide. The rain outside stopped midair. The reels in the recorder slowed, then stilled completely. All that remained was the faint click of the tape reaching its end. Then, rewind. The sound of time itself breathing backward. The rewind slowed, each breath of the world drawing back into itself. Street lamps flickered in reverse. Raindrops climbed the sky. The city exhaled its last echo. And then, stillness. When the light returned, I was standing in the tram depot again. Dust, rust, and the faint perfume of something that no longer belonged to this world. The chalk circle was there, bright as new. The single black shoe rested inside it, dry, untouched by time. No handprint, no blood, just waiting. My hands trembled as I looked down and saw the recorder in my grasp. It was old now, its casing cracked, the engraved initials barely visible. M.A. Mine. Anna's. Both. I pressed play one last time. A soft hum filled the air, gentle and steady, like the heartbeat of something that had made peace with remembering. Then her voice, clear at last. No static, no distortion. You can stop listening now. I closed my eyes. The circle around me glowed faintly, lines of chalk becoming lines of light. Every sound I had ever chased, the scream, the whispers, the rain, merged into a single tone, and for the first time it wasn't haunting. It was whole. Outside, the city began to wake. Morning light crept through the depot's broken windows, painting gold over the rust. The rain was gone. I set the recorder down inside the circle, beside the shoe. The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was alive. It remembered everything. The love, the loss, the listening. And as I stepped out of the depot, the world felt lighter. My echo stayed behind, still whispering the story for anyone who might one day hear it. They'll call it a mystery. They'll say the detective disappeared. But that's not true. I simply became what I was always chasing. The silence that followed the scream.